Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. We are a community that helps professional speakers, part-time or full-time, grow their speaking business. Now, our goal with this podcast is to really allow you to explore all of the many angles, ins and outs of the speaking industry. This podcast is brought to you by Accelerate Live 2018. Woohoo! This is our live event, which will be held in Toronto, September 7th to 9th. In Toronto, we are going to be doing deep dives on sales and storytelling. And oh boy, am I excited about this one and the experts that I've lined up for you. The best way to find out more details is go to speakerlauncher.com. Click on the events tab and you will see Accelerate Live listed there. The topic and title for today's show is From Stage to Screen, How to Build a Virtual Speaking Business. And we're going to talk about live two-way video broadcasts, virtual presentations, so to speak. Our guest expert is Douglas Hall. He's the Executive Vice President and Global Solutions for GenieCast. So welcome, Doug. So glad that you're here with us today.
Jane, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let me just share a little bit about GenieCast and then we'll just dive right in and fill in the blanks.
Sure.
Founded just 2 years ago, GenieCast has become the largest marketplace of thought leaders and subject matter experts who deliver their expertise through live two-way video broadcasts. GenieCast's goal is to transform the way people can access ideas and inspiration on a global level by removing the barriers of time, place, travel, or device. And I think, Doug, for our listeners, this can be something that they can just go running towards, or they can be a little bit afraid of. And I want to make sure that we cover everything so that people do not have a level of fear about this. Doug, do you think that all of the speaking jobs that are out there right now that are live are going to go away because of GenieCast?
Absolutely not. In fact, I don't actually think the technology is a replacement. It's an augmentation.
Yeah.
And then you know this because this is the topic you speak on most frequently. But I believe that the business model of any speaker, of any thought leader, they're all unique, but they all have a place for different technologies and delivery systems. So exactly. I always like to look at this as that augmentation. How do I make this work with my business model rather than we're all of a sudden in the music industry in the late 90s and all of a sudden this streaming technology is going to take everything away. It's not going to do that because nothing replaces a handshake. Nothing replaces that engagement.
All right. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I want people to think about, so in my world, it's called the umbrella. This is kind of our business model. And virtual presentations, just imagine that you're doing maybe 3, 6, whatever, however many virtual presentations per year. And tell us how that works in that, am I going to a studio in my hometown? Am I doing it from my office? How might that be set up, Doug? And because I think that if you can earn money while staying at home, people who, especially my road warriors who are listening, they're actually going to be thrilled with this idea.
Yeah, it's not passive income, and it's not passive aggressive income, but it's certainly a nice channel of revenue if you can monopolize on it. And I always joke that virtual presentation is the second highest form of engagement that you can have with no pants on. And I think that when you look at things like that, it comes down to the professionalism. And it's interesting. We just had a town hall for our genies, which is what we call our speakers.
Okay.
And I like to refer to it as professional authenticity. And what that is that we want our clients, and our clients have told us that they want to make sure the person with whom they're connecting is real, authentic, and that's where the home or office environment really plays into. This doesn't look like a CNN broadcast, but the other side of that is the time and investment, which is not a lot, that you put into a professional feel in that same authentic environment goes a long way. And I'll give you one example. At that same town hall that I just referenced,
Okay.
I had a regular call with someone just prior. However, I had put in a better camera on my setup and I had my lights set because I was going straight into the town hall. And even though that person had been speaking with me and used to me trying new things, the first thing he said was, "What have you done?" Felt like I was like, ran into somebody like, "You lost weight." But it was like, "What have you done? You look a whole lot different, a whole lot better." And the interesting thing was it was 5 minutes of moving standard lights around and a $50 camera. But it made that much of an impact just from putting that much into
Okay.
there.
So that's really interesting that you say that. And I would have laughed at your joke there, but I was taking a drink of my coffee, so apologies.
I'm used to people not laughing at my jokes.
No, I was really laughing on the inside. But so let's just talk about, okay, people get listed with you kind of like a speaker's bureau, and people may look through the smorgasbord of ideas. I see you have a lot of names on your list, and I've actually talked to a few people just because I wanted to get a feel for what the reference was. And what I think will happen is that speakers will sign up with you, and then you're waiting for someone to choose them. Am I right?
Yes and no. That model, which is how we were founded, the concept of can we create a marketplace where clients or if you were looking at this in a traditional platform model, this would be content producers and then consumers connecting.
Right.
That is the plan, and that is something that requires time, people, and a community to build. Okay. So conceptually, yes, we typically will sign up our genies to have presence in our marketplace, to provide programming with pricing that clients can review, absorb, etc. However, in tandem with that, because we understand that you need to fuel an engine like this, right, we run a completely parallel sales program. We work with our genies, those who are making that time investment and connecting with us. We work with them for direct client relations and have a fully functioning sales team that goes out and solicits the right type of client right now to match with content providers that can help them solve their problems.
So if I'm talking to a client who says, gosh, I'd really like to have you, and what would it be? I can't afford to bring you in, or there's a schedule conflict. Why don't we try to make this work virtually? Then I might say, well, I have a company, GenieCast, who can help facilitate that for us. Am I thinking it right through?
Absolutely. And that is a very common use, especially if the speaker is not as tech savvy, or that their own plate is so full that they just want that they want our professional approach to managing the client, checking the technology, doing all those things so that when they do connect, it's ready to go. They want to work on their content. They want to work on their presentation. They don't want to be calling a client an hour before and saying, okay, put your IT on the phone because clearly there's a problem, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's test it. Okay.
So that's kind of like the number one kind of way that can be used. But what we found is so many other iterations for utilizing the technology from, okay, I'm going to be there to speak, but I heard that one of your locations isn't able to come in now. Perhaps GenieCast can help bring them into my presentation on site, and we'll work bringing the client in. Sometimes it's I just gave a great session, but there's absolutely no way you can afford, or I can really assist in coming back just for your own team development. And that's where using someone like us to program out follow-up sessions or pre-sessions, all of these other ways to utilize technology to create a much more robust offering than just show up, speak, and leave.
So as content providers, we should really be thinking about how you can go deep with clients, how instead of coming in and doing a keynote, you can actually be doing something that will really help affect change and go long term. So that's really interesting. Okay. And then I assume you kind of have a sales team who's probably also approaching decision makers to have them adopt this type of technology too. Is that right?
That is absolutely true. We have probably the largest division right now in our company is our sales team. And so we have business development people that go out, engage. They'll assess the quality of the client, because what we don't want is somebody who's not ready and that is fewer and fewer and fewer as this technology scales. But they also are prepping for the differences in what this is like versus having somebody in the room, because we want to avoid that replacement mentality of, I'm only doing this because it's cheaper.
Right.
Well, that's less of the reason than if we're able to get access to someone we wouldn't have be able to get access to, or for creating a session or an engagement that is different because of the technology and playing with those tools, that's where it really gets fun, and that's what our team does as well. So we do a lot of the support on the programming side and try to be more of a broker to provide impact and solutions rather than just selling speakers. And that's why it's very different than the bureau model. Not that the bureaus aren't to help, but their primary objective is booking speakers. Ours is solving problems with content providers.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so now let's shift gears over to the idea of giving a presentation, standing on a stage in front of a live audience versus a virtual presentation. What are some of the mistakes that you think people make? And let's talk a little bit more about what kind of a setup and everything that we might do. You know, am I standing up? Am I sitting down? How does this work based on, and maybe walk me through a couple of different sizes of audience?
Absolutely. The very basic component here is that most speakers, and we work with them, obviously when we do our gear checks and things, we talk about best practices, but the first thing is how you reach your audience. And we've really separated the wheat from the chaff when it comes to speakers who are more, they do their program, they know their keynote, they know their beats, they know when to stop, they know when there's a laugh, they know when it's time to query the audience. That doesn't work in tech. I've watched speakers make the same joke they'd make on stage and then not, because laughter is a little harder to read.
There's crickets. There's nothing coming back to you, right? Okay.
Me, who's used to people not laughing at jokes, you have a speaker up there who might be on stage and then they're waiting for that beat, and it can really trip them up. And so for us, we try to make it as simple as possible, and look at this as a conversation less than a presentation. And you're able to play with time and do things like that. You could really evolve your own product at the same time as well, and differentiate it.
So we aren't really, are we changing our presentation to not tell those jokes, or are we just not waiting for the laugh?
I think that what you're doing is you're, yes, actually you are. You're changing your presentation so that it's not stage. So what I would say is that if you're at the root of what you're trying to get across, there is going to be room for humor. There is going to be room for playing with the audience, and you can still use those jokes. It's all about delivery. Okay. So I would say if there's somebody that has a great, piece of humor that is important to the presentation because it moves the presentation one way or another, or gets an answer or solicits an answer from the audience that helps keep things moving, then instead of speaking to the entire room with virtual, find somebody in the audience to bring up, find somebody to engage with, isolate someone enough that you could set that same joke up.
Okay.
But that gives people the feeling of interaction, of presence, and of real engagement, because you're now not just looking at a screen making the joke and hoping people out there are laughing. You're having a conversation with Jane, and Jane sets you up for the joke, and then you go from there.
And would you tee that up with Jane ahead of time, or would you have your person who's is there someone who's kind of in charge of the audience at the other end?
So yes, what we do here at GenieCast, specific to our model, is that our teams work with both sides to engage both the technical component, the contextual and delivery component, and it's set up pre-calls just like a bureau would. But ultimately, and I hate to be too ambiguous here, it really comes down to the setting. So if this was to, and this will get to your other questions, and also, by the way, sitting is always best in my opinion. We do have some that stand successfully, but it's all about framing. So if you have to know your marks. Sitting keeps you a little bit
more
more
in the
framed.
frame. Okay.
So
I have a standing desk, so I can do the same thing, but I have to watch my frame and my mic because I
there you go.
and
And that's it. That's the perfect example. As you start moving, know where you're moving. But I also always say, I have a blog piece I wrote. I think it's on my LinkedIn where I call it "Tossing the Turd" because I watched a ringmaster throw an elephant turd once that got left behind. It's like, don't avoid the elephant in the room. No pun intended.
Right.
If something happens, if you hit a mic or whatever, that's the authenticity. Oops, I hit my mic. Not, oh, I got to pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
However, set yourself for success. Don't put in too many obstacles or too many things to think about beyond the context and the conversation. That's always important. But
and I want to put some links to some of the blog posts and things in the show notes. Sure. Like, let's put the Turd podcast out.
Oh, I'm sure my board's going to love that one. I got that out. But yeah, I'm happy to share it.
Okay, so energy.
Mm-hmm.
Am I more energized through the screen because I'm working harder, or am I just having a conversation the way I normally would? Like, tell me a little bit about what I should do, energetically speaking. Okay, so let me set it up for you. Let's say it's me and I'm on the big screen in front of 200 people. What am I doing energetically speaking?
Got it. And to the you versus some speakers. I mean, you have your speakers that walk a stage where you can barely track them with a spotlight if you wanted to, versus speakers that are very animated with how they talk. You know, the Italian joke: how do you make an Italian stop talking? You make them sit on their hands. And I could say that partially. I'm enough that I can make the joke, I guess.
All right, good enough.
I have Italian friends. Anyway, my point being is that there are those that really have to, the physicality factor is, how do I maintain that type of energy? And that is one thing versus the energetic or passionate presenter that is more of a yeah and a wow, and they call people out. And so you want to be careful. It's funny. My production team, they require I take my pinky ring off.
Okay.
Because I move my hands a lot, and then you have this the entire time. So there's things to be conscious of in that space. But what I would recommend is that it's channeling energy into the platform that you have.
Okay.
There wouldn't be, all of these, websites now where you have, I don't want to say it's Stitch or Switch, but Switch it, the ones where the gamers are online and they're playing games and they're being videoed. Those guys don't move. In fact, it's a health risk, but they're the most energetic and exciting sessions sometimes to watch because they are into it, and you could feel that presence and that energy because it's real.
Okay.
And it gets back to that professional authenticity. The other factor is that those that have really learned to have fun with the technology, they can maintain the same level of energy and impact with just a point and a click because there's ways to play with tools. I've got some that have marker boards that keep behind them or use Post-it notes and have fun there. So if your framing is right and you're creative enough, you can transcend the stage to the screen, and I really brought it back to the title there, but it's all about using the tools you're given, and this is just a different set of tools.
I saw a cool thing at the National Speakers Association conference, I don't remember how many years ago, but Mike Rayburn actually came in, I'm pretty sure, by hologram, if I have this right. Hologram. And I'm like, okay, that takes the cake. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I'm assuming that you guys don't do that very often.
No, we do actually.
You do it?
We are just now launching our Appear technology, and it is not holograms. It's technically augmented placement, because what we do is we project them on the screen, so it's got much more of a 3D image. We also love it because it's less technically restrictive as holograms. Holograms are lasers and lights. Okay. So if you want that Tupac Bonnaroo feel, you got 3 days of staging and trust systems and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've created a formula where it is pop up, there they are, gone, where did they go? And we're really excited that we're now rolling out this product.
That is so neat. Well, I'm excited to see this. And for those of you who are on the cutting edge of these things, you'll want to be in touch with GenieCast to find out more about that.
I'll get you those links as well.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about who one of your favorite genies to work with is and why. Like what kinds of, just kind of walk me through, and then maybe it's kind of like trying to choose one of your children, but
It's like Sophie's Choice. Is that what you're setting up right now?
Walk me through some of the gigs and the deals, like the deal part of it.
And I'm wondering, okay, who's in your listeners? Who am I going to get an email from in a couple of weeks saying, you mentioned me? What about all those favors?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It's there for this topic. I have probably a few dozen genies that I really enjoy working with, mainly because they've been a part of the journey and they understand what a startup role like this means and all the evolution. And so the most flexible, amenable, and forward-thinking genies I always love to work with. And there's a long list of those, and I'm not going to get into an Oscar speech where I forget to thank my mother or Jesus.
Sure.
But what I will speak to is one that we work with a lot is Chris Westfall. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris.
I've seen Chris on your website.
Yeah, Chris is a favorite, specifically because Chris understands the things that we just spoke about. His professionalism, his authenticity is there. He is very adaptable with content, and he's not afraid to take risk.
Okay.
And I think that when you look at the parallel of some of the speakers we've encountered where it's, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is what I charge, this is what I say, that square peg, round hole thing becomes very difficult. I understand and respect the business model, but it doesn't allow for the adaptability that's needed for tech. Chris, and Post-it notes I mentioned earlier, he's great with just holding up Post-it notes. And what I love about Chris is he's not afraid to stop and ask questions, engage an audience. And the one thing I really love, because he's the master of it, and I really push a lot of our genies to do this when I speak with them, is he is the master of the pregnant pause. And when you're working a room, especially if it's not a point to point or multiple seats, virtual seats, people need a little bit of motivation to engage because they're used to I'm just watching a YouTube channel. I can do 60 different things.
Right.
Or I'm used to being at a conference where I'm just a face.
I've noticed that too on Facebook Live, that it's like, okay, come on, people, let's stop multitasking and get involved.
There's no engagement there. It's just, are you there? Can I hear you?
What are we doing? Well, I just realized it just takes a little encouragement and a little urging, and I didn't because I didn't have the experience. Okay, so
of course. Well, and to that, really the angle that I love about it is that, and we use it in sales a lot with the pregnant pause, is people love to fill voids. They don't like that uncomfortable feeling. Unless it's a two floor elevator and you're like, I'll just get through this. But what he'll do is he'll sit to the point of somebody speaking up just to keep it moving. Wow. And a lot of our speakers to tech converters early on, they're so nervous about how they appear and look that they're worried about that blank space. And it's just, let it happen, because as soon as somebody starts asking questions, it becomes its own thing, and that's when it's beautiful.
Okay, so help me understand, is the live audience then able to talk back? So there's a two-way dialogue on a lot of these things. And then you also said, like, maybe is it people who are virtually coming in from other places too, kind of like a Zoom meeting or something like that?
Yep, exactly like a Zoom meeting. And in fact, for those people that aren't familiar with GenieCast, we're technology agnostic. So we use platforms like Zoom, like Skype. We use all the technologies out there. So when the scenario calls for that type of setup, our production team will design just around that. And there'll be times the guys will come out, we call it the tower because it's like air traffic control, but they'll come into the tower and they'll be like, this is just we're going to use Zoom. It's just perfect for this. Or they might be like, can't use Zoom. We're going to use our stack to create a 3-channel whatever because it's in Indonesia, yada, yada, yada. But the technology stack is unique always because of the audience, but we are very adamant about it being two-way. Otherwise, it's just streaming. And if it's just streaming, everybody's doing it.
Why not just play a video?
Right, exactly. Why not have them pre-record?
Okay.
And so engagement is key, and we really focus on that technologically. With a single room, it's where are people going to ask questions? We've had iPads passed around, we've had podiums, we've even had them. I don't know if you've seen those balls, they're foam balls that have the microphone in where they toss it around the room.
Oh,
We're always
that's
being
fun.
creative that way. And then to your other comment about the virtual seats, depending on the scenario, sometimes we'll recommend a virtual moderator who can kind of corral the virtual audience.
Right.
And then we have production people on the back end working through chat to say, somebody puts it in the chat, we're going to tell them, hey, We'll bring you up live. Can you ask this question live? Are you camera ready? Not everybody wants to.
Okay.
We push those to the top of the list because as soon as that happens,
engagement.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's, everything's on the table now.
Wow, you're really opening up a whole new realm of possibilities for us. Okay, so let's say I am a speaker who already does some video recording or Facebook Lives, or, I'm already kind of engaging my social media platform. What are some things that you think I might do wrong? We talked about investing in equipment. I only just got, a better camera because I just started working with a video guy who said if this was in HD, it'd be that much better. And so, I've been kind of upgrading to, I can't remember the name of this big hunkin' mic. You can see it. You probably know the name of it.
It's your Yeti.
It's my Yeti. I have a Yeti and now a proper HD camera, and I'm getting ready to redo all the backdrop. What are some things that you think people should be thinking about?
Well, on the technical side, I would always, look, this is your career, this is your brand. You could spend under $500 and get a pretty decent upgrade. I am not a professional speaker, but I have a $40, little mic on my desk that just helps alleviate background noise because my office used to be right next to the kitchen, which really made calls a little weird when people started grinding coffee and whatnot. And that $40 investment saved my life. So small adjustments and not just going off of your new laptop because it apparently came with all the bells and whistles. To cameras, it's a very interesting, factor, and it's a crap in, crap out type of scenario. Or since I referenced coffee, it all starts with the bean. So when you look at like a Zoom, for instance, is a 1080p pipe. So Zoom is transmitting at 1080p, which is a higher pixel, which looks nicer. Mm-hmm. However, if you're using a 720p camera, it's only a 720p signal they're pushing because that's all you're giving them to work with. So just upgrades like that match the quality of the stream. Everybody's getting a new TV. Is it a 4K? Is it a 4K? Is it a 4K? Well, are you receiving stuff in 4K? Because if you're not, it doesn't matter. And in this case, it's premium gasoline, premium engine. Depending on how fast you want to go, make sure you're using the tools that match that speed and quality. It's not expensive, and nowadays, simple backdrop, a little bit into that quality goes a long way. And the other thing that's nice about that, Jane, is that because of all the noise and crap that's out there, people feel the difference because there's so many people just doing live streams or Facebook Lives from their iPhone.
Lots and lots of books behind them and things like that. And, as long as they're neat, I'm okay with that. But I think it should look nice, and people aren't really considering their frame as much as they might. I'm excited because we're going to do barn board here and behind me, and it's got a little bit of teal in it, which is my brand, and it's going to be fun. What do you think?
Professional authenticity.
Your you have your Genie cast. People can't see us, but I'm going to take a screenshot of us just so put it on the
right. And I'm actually breaking one of the cardinal rules right now.
With what?
Don't sit in front of a window.
Oh, okay. Do you want to move your Genie cast over and I'll take a screenshot?
No, because I'd have to have two. But no, okay. Show me not practicing when I preach.
There we go. Okay, we'll take a little screenshot and we'll post that on the show notes so that people can see your kind of billboard. And I have my book, but y'all will be seeing something different here in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay, so...
And I have links there that can give tips and tricks as well that I'll send your way for sure.
Beautiful. We would love more tips and tricks for how to make this, this is the way of the future. And I think for people who have been out on the road speaking a lot, wheeling their roller bags down a lonely hotel hallway at 2:00 in the morning after a flight delay or something, they will appreciate that this is a possibility for them. And so if they wanted to kind of get more in bed, become one of your genies, what would somebody do? What's the first step to kind of getting involved with you guys?
The easiest step is just to go to our website, scroll to the bottom, and submit to be a genie. That's always the, we don't charge any of our content providers to participate. We don't charge them to exist on our website. We only make money when they make money.
Okay.
And so just getting involved, soaking up what's going on, submitting programming, learning the process, especially at this point when we're really trying new things, they get to take advantage of that. If we were an Amazon of sorts, it's you play by our rules, you do our thing, but we can be a lot more creative and fun with genies that come in with new products and whatnot. So the other part of that is I would recommend that before they even consider virtual, consider how it plays into their model, consider how it plays into their offering. You mentioned earlier, those that have podcasts, those that have social media, those that are streaming, those that are pushing content. How do I differentiate my offering for virtual? And how does that complement my other offerings versus repurposing the same offering for virtual? Because then there's no value. It's if I could see this on your YouTube, or if you're giving it away for free, why would I pay for it?
Okay, that's really good. That's really good right there. And if we're talking about working for one client in specific, obviously you want to be customizing it, maybe making it really, really rich for them. I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a good point.
And if you want to make sure you're not cannibalizing your keynotes, if you don't want to be one of those people that's taking it for a third of the price, then separate the two products. Complement them. Say, that's my keynote. You only get that when I'm in person. However, I have supplements to my keynote. I have a virtual presentation I give to large audiences, but it's unique to the virtual space.
Ooh, that's really a very good point that you just brought up. And I was going to say, what have we missed? What we've missed is fee. You said 1/3. What do you think is the standard? Let's say I'm a $10,000 speaker. When I fly to you, it'll be $10,000 plus travel.
Sure.
What would you charge for a cast or a virtual presentation?
And again, I'll give you the numbers and the metrics in this, but it's all dependent on the speaker and how aggressive they want to be in the marketplace, because there's $10,000 speakers that don't want to ever go on the road anymore. Okay. And they're going to do those margins based on how many of these can I do to replace my speaking. And then there are those that don't want to give up the road and are happy to do these from their hotel room. And how do I do these and in a way that adds to my revenue? And so there's always going to be that differentiation between the product offering. So we do a couple of different things. The standard bearer for many years that bureaus set was 50%. And I think that was just because they knew the interest was already there. The interest was specifically for that speaker, and they knew that was a significant drop based on the need. However, now that virtual is becoming a two-way market and less of a replacement for in-person, that shifted a little lower because people are looking for something. And here's the thing I always say. We're not competing or comparing to the in-person price. We're competing with all the free content that's out there, because most clients and users, they're looking at I just saw that I can get a free I can get a $39 masterclass, a pre-recorded. Why am I going to pay you $3,900 for an hour live? And in that, it really comes down. I've seen the speakers that are repurposing the same product now are in a space of about 30% of what they normally charge, right around that, and it shifts as we've watched. We've got some that are super aggressive and are doing the 10%, and I mentioned that earlier, and some that are a little bit in the 50% range. But I think that happy medium is right around 30%, that third I mentioned earlier. But the one thing that we did, Jane, and we did this very early on, is we gave our genies the ability to price programs rather than themselves. And this was something that I had a deep-rooted issue with when I started, which was originally I was the SVP of content and then shifted into this role. And it was our early days, everything was NDAs. There was no site. I felt like a Nigerian internet scammer. Like, hello, kind sir, I've got this much to bloom. But it turned into a lot of genies like, well, what's this going to do to my income? How's this going to affect what people see my value as?
Right. How is this going to affect my brand?
Exactly. So what we did was we said, look at this as a shelf that we're giving you the space to put many products. And you can have top shelf products all the way to your loss leader door opener products. Okay. As long as the content they're in and the time that goes into the programming is applicable, you can price yourself in different ways. So there are some speakers that still have a $30,000 program because they want to establish value, but know that the $5,000 program is the one that's going to sell the most. And that's the one they don't offer as much or sell back to this is a spin-off of my keynote that I've already done in person, knowing good and well that flagship bottle at the top of the bar is only opened by one person a year, and it's usually poured just for them, and everybody else is drinking something right above rail.
Okay. Well, I just so you know, I'm going to be hopefully vying in the industry for 30 to 50,
Sure.
so that the brands of our speakers, I don't want to see it keep going down. I want to see it going up, because when you are delivering your content, they're not necessarily paying for the hour that you're with them. They're paying for the 20 years that went into that hour. Absolutely. And the knowledge. And I don't think we want to be giving up our intellectual property too cheap.
Nor should you.
So let's keep encouraging people to, pay a good fee for these things. And I think that will help everybody in the industry.
And I think most do. And it really comes to how you look at the situation. I couldn't agree more. And I came out of the entertainment space. And, a lot of times, even on the lower level, but when you even get to the local level where somebody's booking like a wedding band, and it was always how hard is it for them to learn? Or why are they charging this much? And it's like, first of all, they're performing for 4 hours, but you're helping pay for their education, the fact that they're taking time to practice, and those things don't come in when you start quoting by the hour. So that's more respect for that than most, just because I understand how hard it is to engage a client that only sees your value as the time that you're spending with them,
right?
Rather than the time that went into qualifying you as the person you are and why you should be there in the first place. The other side to that, though, is that it comes back to that differentiation. Mm-hmm. It is an hour from your home versus getting on a plane, losing a day here, losing a day there. Your price is what you feel the value is for you. But ultimately the market is going to define, because nothing's, it's like selling a house. It's only worth what somebody's going to pay for it.
Right.
That being said, I 50%, 30%, my big thing is let's stop comparing it to in-person altogether.
Okay.
Because look at the music industry, and I'll stop here so I'm not rambling, but we talked about it earlier. Streaming was coming in. People were like, I want my recording contracts. I want to get paid my time for this music that I put on this sheet. Yeah. And now they're giving their music away because they just want access to the audience, and they created a 360 model for touring. And they make more money touring, and that demand to see them live and to engage with them is even higher. So I would recommend letting value guide you rather than price.
Okay.
Having a smart enough and pragmatic enough business model that you're capturing dollars based on the play.
Yeah. And, the wealthy speaker mentality is not to let fear drive our decisions. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think you and I are on the same page about that. This is like a paradigm shift for a lot of people inside. And so we're getting on the bus here, Doug, and we're going to figure it out. I'm very confident in that. Well, is there anything that's really important that we've missed today?
There's so many things that are important. There's children dying overseas now. Really, we're not solving.
We're not solving the world problems.
Exactly.
We're definitely not diving into immigration. I'll tell you that.
I was going to say. Well, I think we could. I always joke, if I wanted a professional speaker, I'd go to Best Buy. But the reality of it is that I'm now vicariously associating myself with the genies I work with. We are changing minds, and we are changing the way people see things. When somebody's like, well, they're a great speaker. So is Hitler. The thing that it comes down to is, are we evolving our product, our content, and our engagement in real time? Because this is not about video, and it's not about technology. It's about the pace that people consume and engage with content. And I think the greatest task, the biggest importance that I'm trying to get too esoteric here, but the biggest level of importance I would put on any professional speaker is to continue to evolve their content, their mindset, their program, the channels, the video, all that stuff. It's the same. It's just going to evolve. But if you are pushing content and trying to actually change the person on the other side, all of this is superfluous, because it really comes down to, how do I use this tool to change minds and help people grow?
Wow, good close, Doug. I'm very impressed.
No post on that one either.
I'm going to closing for your
I'm going to pull a Costanza and just walk out of the office, be like, I'm out.
You could drop the mic now. Just go.
I don't know if my production team would like that, but
Well, I want to say thank you so much for Doug Hall for being on the show with us today. And we will post everything over at speakerlauncher.com. Click on the blog click on the podcast page and you will see the show notes and all of the links to everything that we have talked about here, including, I'm hoping, a live version of one of these Genie casts so that people can actually see how somebody else is doing it. Maybe you can show us Chris's. I think that would be really cool.
Absolutely. I'll overload you with links.
Okay, that sounds great. I know my listeners, Wealthy Speaker listeners, will love that. Thank you, Wealthy Speaker listeners, for joining us for today's podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform that you have enjoyed it on. And by all means, please come on and leave some comments on our podcast page over at speakerlauncher.com. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speakers Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.